A millionaire's daughter had been in a coma for days. The doctors were out of options, and specialists from every corner of the globe had tried and failed. Just when all hope seemed lost, a barefoot young boy walked into the hospital, whispered 5 words, and stunned everyone. "I can wake her up." At first, the millionaire scoffed, but what happened next defied belief. This is no ordinary tale. It's a true miracle, and the ending will leave you speechless. The clock on the sterile white wall blinked 12:32 p.m. Rooms smelled of antiseptic and sterile plastic. Machines hummed softly as monitors blinked, not in urgency but with dull routine. The beeping was steady, cruelly steady. On the hospital bed, 9-year-old Layla rested, a frail frame beneath a pink blanket covered in cartoon stars. Her eyes were shut tight, her face pale, and her dark curls lay tangled against the pillow. Tubes wrapped around her like vines clinging to life. She hadn't spoken, moved, or opened her eyes in over 7 days. One moment she was laughing at the breakfast table with her father. The next she collapsed while tying her shoes before school. Doctors called it an acute cerebral shutdown, something so rare even the top pediatric neurologists could only offer guesses. She might wake up, one had said. She might not, another added, almost in the same breath. Her father, Marcus Bennett, sat by her side. His large, calloused hands dwarfed as they held her small, limp one. A construction worker by trade, Marcus had built bridges, lifted steel beams with cranes, and poured foundations deep into the ground. But no labor had ever felt heavier than watching his little girl slip away. The nurses called it devotion. Doctors called it desperation. But Marcus didn't care. This was his baby girl, and he wasn't leaving her side for anything. Still, time chipped away at hope. One week in, the doctors started speaking in whispers. Hospital policy, insurance issues, and next steps entered the conversation, and that's when he entered the picture. Victor Crane, a billionaire tech mogul, owner of half the hospitals in the region, and self-proclaimed genius. He wasn't just rich, he was smug about it. A man with too much money, too many toys, and not enough heart. Crane arrived unannounced that Thursday afternoon, flanked by his PR team and a pair of private security guards. He had read about Layla in a local newspaper while sipping his imported espresso and saw an opportunity. He offered Marcus a miracle package in top international neurologists, AI-powered diagnostics, and experimental procedures. All at zero cost. Marcus, worn down and desperate, asked only one question. Will it bring her back? Crane chuckled, eyes glinting beneath his designer sunglasses. Black boy, I know how to make your daughter wake up. Trust me, we'll give her the best tech money can buy. We'll upgrade her brain like an iPhone. The laugh echoed off the walls like a gunshot. Marcus's face hardened, the muscles in his jaw twitching. He stood up slowly, placing Layla's hand back on the blanket. She's not a machine, he said. She's a little girl. Crane waved dismissively. Emotion makes you weak. Science wins. But Layla didn't stir. Neither that day nor the next. Crane brought in machines with blinking lights, virtual simulations, even a VR headset they placed gently over Layla's eyes. Nothing worked. She remained silent, unmoving. One by one, the specialists flew out, quietly, shamefully, leaving behind only invoices and silent monitors. By Sunday evening, Crane stopped coming altogether, but Marcus remained. He read her favorite bedtime stories, played her favorite lullabies from his phone, rubbed lotion on her feet, even told her about the moon phases she loved so much, about how Venus had been bright in the sky last night. Then, just past midnight, a nurse tapped on the window. "Mr. Bennett," she whispered, "there's a boy here. Says he wants to help." "A boy?" Marcus stepped out cautiously. "What boy?" She pointed toward the lobby. There, sitting alone on the cold bench, was a barefoot black child. He couldn't have been older than 11. He wore an oversized gray hoodie, frayed at the sleeves. His jeans were torn, and his face was smudged with dirt. But his eyes, deep, clear, and still, were what caught Marcus's breath. The boy stood up as Marcus approached, nodding respectfully. "Are you Layla's father?" he asked. "Yes," Marcus said, hesitating. "Who are you?" The boy didn't answer that. Instead, he said, "I know how to help her." Marcus blinked. "What did you say?" "I know how to wake her up." The words weren't loud. They weren't arrogant. They weren't even hopeful. They were certain. Marcus, already sleep-deprived and emotionally worn, sighed. "You're just a kid, man." The boy nodded, unfazed. "But sometimes it takes someone small to remind people of big things. Listen, I appreciate the thought, but doctors couldn't help her. A billionaire couldn't help her, I don't think." "She's not lost," the boy said softly. "She's listening from far away. But she doesn't know if it's safe to come back." Marcus's mouth went dry. The boy stepped forward. "She needs something the hospital doesn't have." "What?" He looked Marcus in the eyes. "She needs your pain, your truth, the words you've hidden behind strength." Marcus was stunned. "Who are you?" The boy didn't answer. "Can I sit with her?" Every instinct told Marcus to say no, but something deeper, something old and aching inside him, nodded. "All right," he whispered. The boy entered Layla's room and stood beside her, placing one hand lightly on her head. His lips moved silently for a moment. Then he turned to Marcus. "Now you." "What?" "She knows you're here, but she needs to know why you're still here." Marcus stared at his daughter. His heart clenched. His lips parted. And then it came. The words he hadn't said out loud since the day she collapsed. "I wasn't there, baby," he whispered. "I was at work. I missed your breakfast. I missed your smile. I missed your warning signs." His voice cracked. "I should have seen something was wrong. I should have been home earlier. I should have. I should have held you longer that morning. I should have told you how proud I was." Tears ran down his cheeks, falling onto her blanket. He gripped her hand, shaking. "Please come back. I'll never miss another second. I promise." Silence. And then the heart monitor blipped a little faster. Just once. The nurse gasped. Marcus blinked. "Did you see that?" "I did," the boy said calmly. "She's listening." Then, just like that, he turned to leave. "Wait," Marcus called. "What's your name?" The boy paused, hand on the door. "They call me Noah," he said. "I'll be back tomorrow." And he walked into the hallway, barefoot and silent, as if he belonged to another world entirely. Marcus turned back to Layla. Her fingers twitched slightly, and for the first time in a week, the machines blinked with a different rhythm. Not routine, hope. The sun had barely broken over the horizon, but Marcus hadn't moved from his daughter's side. His back ached. His eyes were red and dry, but he refused to rest, because sometime during the long hours of night, Layla's left index finger had twitched again, this time without a monitor's prompt. It was like a whisper from the other side, faint, fleeting, but real. No one else had seen it. No one else needed to. He had. As daylight poured through the hospital blinds, a new nurse on shift rolled her eyes when Marcus spoke of the boy. "No, visitor was signed in last night," she said, tapping her tablet, "and no child was on the security footage either." "Are you sure you weren't dreaming?" Marcus said nothing, just stared at the small pink blanket rising and falling over his daughter's chest, because he knew Noah had been real. The moment that boy touched Layla's head, something shifted in the room. Not just physically, but spiritually. Like a window opened somewhere in the universe. Still he wondered, where did Noah go? Where did he come from? He had spoken like someone who had known Layla her whole life. Like someone who had known him. Not the version of himself wearing grease-stained jeans and holding hope together with raw knuckles. But the man who used to believe that love was louder than fear. He hadn't been that man in years. He had tried to be a provider, a protector. But he realized now that he hadn't listened to Layla. Not truly, in a long time. She loved stories, not flashy cartoons, but old myths. Ones he used to tell her on late Sunday nights when her mother was still alive. She would curl up next to him and ask, "Tell me again about the girl who whispered to the moon." But after the accident that took his wife, Marcus buried those stories along with his grief. He worked longer hours, stopped singing, stopped dreaming. Layla noticed, but she never complained. She just grew quieter, and now she was silent. until Noah came. That afternoon, Marcus did something he hadn't done in years. He prayed, not with eloquent words, not with theology, just raw, cracked honesty. God, if you're there, if you're still listening, don't let this be it. And then, like a breath caught in the lungs of the world, the door creaked again. Marcus turned. Noah stood in the doorway. Same frayed hoodie, same bare feet, same calm eyes. I said I'd come back, he said. Marcus nearly ran to him. Where do you go? Who are you? I go where I'm needed, the boy answered. And I'm someone who remembers what others forget. Noah walked to the bed, gently placed a hand on Layla's wrist, and closed his eyes. She's closer today. Marcus's heart jumped. Closer? She's been listening, Noah said. Your voice reached her yesterday, but now she needs something else. Tell me, Marcus whispered. She needs the song. Marcus's face twisted in confusion. Song? Noah looked up. The one you used to sing to her before the fire, before the quiet. Marcus stumbled back like he'd been punched. There was only one song, a lullaby, not recorded anywhere, not shared, just his voice in the dark, carrying the melody of a story from his childhood. One his grandmother used to sing when he was scared. There's light in the shadows and stars in the rain. Hold on, little dreamer. You'll fly once again. Hadn't sung it since the day they buried his wife. His throat tightened. I can't. Yes, you can, Noah said softly, because she still remembers it. And so do you. The hospital room faded in Marcus's eyes, replaced by a tiny living room with soft yellow curtains. A little girl on his lap, her head on his chest, their world warm and whole. He blinked hard, the memory shattering, but his heart remembered. So he sat beside her bed and cleared his throat. It cracked. His voice trembled. But he began. There's light in the shadows and stars in the rain. He paused, emotion overwhelming him. Noah nodded. Again. And Marcus did hold on, little dreamer. You'll fly once again. A long, low beep came from the monitor. Marcus panicked, but then saw it. Her heart rate was rising, not dangerously, but steadily. Then her fingers twitched. Once. Twice. The nurse on duty gasped. She's reacting to the music. Noah looked at Marcus. You gave her something to come back to. Now she knows the way. Marcus wiped his eyes. Why are you helping us? You don't know us. Noah stepped away from the bed. You're wrong. I do know her. Marcus stiffened. Noah took a breath. Not her name, but her heart. He looked around the room. Because I was a child once who cried in a bed like this. Alone. Afraid. No one ever came for me. No songs. No hands holding mine. I waited and waited. But no one told me to come home. Silence choked the air. I promised if I ever got the chance to change that, I would. Marcus fell to his knees beside him. You're like an angel. Noah didn't answer. He just turned to Layla and whispered, You've been found. Then he stepped toward the door. Marcus called out, Will you come again tomorrow? The boy turned slightly. If she needs me, yes, but I think your voice is stronger now. Wait. Marcus ran to the hallway, but just like before, the boy had vanished. This time, Marcus asked the receptionist, Check the security cameras. No trace, but none of that mattered. Because when he returned to the room, Layla's eyes were fluttering beneath her lids. She wasn't awake, but she wasn't gone. And for the first time in a week, Marcus smiled. The ICU floor was unnaturally quiet. Doctors moved like whispers. Machines beeped in steady rhythm. And in room 317, something wholly lingered in the air. Not the sterile cold of medicine, but something soft, something warm. Marcus had barely blinked since the night before. His voice was worn to a husk from singing the same song again and again. Not because someone told him to, but because he saw how every single note brought his daughter closer. The monitors didn't lie. Her brainwaves had stabilized. Her heart was strong. And this morning, at precisely 6:02 a.m., Layla's right hand, the one that had been limp for 7 days, reached for his. No one had coached her. No reflex test, no stimulus. She reached. Marcus had crumbled, sobbing into her blanket. It was a movement that should have been impossible. A movement that had no scientific explanation. But Marcus didn't care about science anymore. He only cared about faith, and a boy with no shoes who had taught him to believe again. Dr. Riley Chen stood by the window, flipping through her notes, for the third time that hour. "We don't understand this," she murmured, her voice equal parts amazed and skeptical. "Neurologically, nothing explains this kind of spontaneous recovery in the absence of medication or surgical intervention." The nurse beside her looked baffled. "So what are we charted as?" Dr. Riley Chen hesitated, then whispered, "Call it an anomaly." But Marcus smiled from the corner, gently holding Layla's hand. "You call it what you want," he said. "But I know what I saw, what I heard." Dr. Riley Chen raised an eyebrow. "You think it's the boy?" Marcus nodded slowly. "I don't just think it, I know it." That afternoon, Marcus stepped outside for the first time in 3 days. The world felt different. Everything felt different. The sun didn't feel like fire anymore. It felt like promise. He walked to the nearest convenience store, not for food, but for something very specific. A small spiral notebook, one he could fill with song, stories, truth. Because Noah was right. Layla needed her father's voice, not the one buried under bills and burdens. The one that told her she was loved, safe, and never truly alone. Marcus wasn't going to lose her again. Back at the hospital, Marcus found something taped to Layla's window. A note, folded, small, written in crooked blue pen. He opened it with shaking fingers. "Sometimes the healing comes before the waking. Don't give up on her just because her eyes are closed. She hears you. Keep singing. I—" Marcus pressed the paper to his heart. Noah had come again, not in flesh but in presence. The hospital had no record of anyone entering or exiting. No staff had seen him, but he had been there. Layla's breathing changed after that. It deepened, became more rhythmic, less labored, less mechanical. Her color returned in full. And then, late that night, she spoke again. A whisper, a murmur, but unmistakable. "Daddy?" Marcus dropped the notebook. His legs went weak. He rushed to the bed and cupped her face in his trembling hands. "Layla! Layla! Can you hear me, baby?" She blinked slowly. Her lips barely moved. "You came back." "I never left," he whispered, his voice breaking. A single tear rolled down her cheek. "Where's the boy?" she asked. Marcus froze. You saw him?" She nodded slowly. He said, "He was the echo that found me. When I was floating and couldn't see, he sang until I heard your voice again." She closed her eyes. He held my hand. He said, "Your daddy's waiting on the other side of the dark," and I followed. The light. Marcus felt the weight of her words settle into his soul like a stone into water. "He led you back," Layla whispered. "He smelled like dust and bread. He laughed like sunlight. He said his name was Noah." Tears rolled freely now. "Sweetheart," Marcus choked, "Noah is—" He didn't know how to finish that sentence. An angel, a messenger, a miracle. Maybe all three. But Layla smiled faintly. He said he didn't need wings to fly. Just faith. The next morning, news had already spread. The hospital was in quiet uproar. Whispered conversations, hushed hallways because Layla's chart didn't make sense anymore. There were no medications listed to explain the recovery, no clinical trial, just a girl who shouldn't have woken up but did because of a voice and a boy no one could find. Outside room 317, a young intern sat scrolling through security footage. He rewound, fast-forwarded, zoomed in, but Noah wasn't there. Not once. Not in any frame. The cameras showed Marcus singing, crying, begging, but the hallway that Noah walked through, empty, every single time. The intern leaned back, goosebumps rising on his arms. "That boy," he whispered, "was never on camera." Meanwhile, Marcus and Layla were holding hands, watching cartoons. She had color in her cheeks, a smile on her lips. Sleep still pulled at her eyes, but life had returned. In full. "Tell me the story again," she said. "What story?" Marcus asked. "The girl who whispered to the moon." Marcus blinked. He hadn't told that story since. But she smiled. And he knew Noah had told her. She hadn't forgotten after all. Neither had he. That night, Marcus didn't leave the hospital. He couldn't. Not yet. He stayed awake in a chair beside Layla's bed, notebook in hand, writing page after page. Stories, songs, prayers. He would never again let silence be his language. And just before midnight, he stepped into the hallway for some air. The wing was empty, lights dimmed. And then, out of nowhere, a voice. Software familiar. "You did good, Mr. Marcus." He turned, and there he was, barefoot, same coat, same dirt-streaked cheeks. But, this time smiling wide, Marcus stepped forward. "Noah," the boy nodded. "She doesn't need me anymore. She asked for you." "I know," Noah said, "but now she has you. That's better." Marcus's eyes welled. "Will I ever see you again?" Noah tilted his head. "Maybe, or maybe someone else will." "What do I owe you?" Marcus whispered. Noah's smile softened. "Tell her stories every night, even when she's grown. Never stop singing." And then he turned, walked toward the end of the hallway, and vanished. No door opened, no sound, just gone. But Marcus didn't chase him. He just stood there, still, full, whole. 3 months had passed since Layla Bennett woke from the coma that stole her light. 3 months since a barefoot boy with dust on his skin and stars in his voice led her back from the edge of the darkness. Marcus hadn't stopped telling the story since. Not because it made sense, but because it mattered. He'd told it to reporters, to the hospital board, to skeptical doctors with clipboards and narrowed eyes. He told it to himself in the middle of the night when fear crept back in. But most importantly, he told it to Layla. Every single night. And she remembered every word. The doctors called it spontaneous neural reintegration. They said the coma was likely caused by an idiopathic cerebral shutdown. Big words. Words that danced around the truth. Words that didn't fit in the real story, because no study, no EEG, no medical journal entry could explain what Marcus had witnessed, what Layla had felt. She had described Noah's laugh, his touch, the way he smelled like bread and hope. She remembered what he said. "You're not lost. You're just not finished yet." Layla started therapy the week after she was discharged. Her steps were shaky. Her hands trembled when she held a crayon, but her will was unshakable. Each time her legs gave out, she whispered one name, Noah. Each time she wanted to give up, she hummed a tune, a lullaby Marcus had never taught her, but Noah had, and Marcus would sit by the piano every night after therapy. Playing that melody until she danced again, Marcus sold the Range Rover first, then the lake house in Colorado, then the last of his trust fund investments. He didn't tell anyone, didn't feel the need to, because for the first time in his life, he wasn't buying anything. He was building, with time, with words, with truth. He used the money to launch a program called Voices at Dawn, a free art and music center for children in underserved communities, especially those navigating trauma, illness, or grief. Its slogan, "Where silence ends and healing begins." The first mural that went up on the wall was painted by Layla, a child with a coat too big and shoes too small, a hand extended from the darkness, offering a song, and beneath it, in big blue brushstrokes, he didn't have wings, he had faith. Reporters asked about the boy, of course. Where is he now? Is he real? What was his name? Each time Marcus said the same thing. His name is Noah. I don't know where he is, but I know where he was when it mattered. A few laughed, others called it folklore. But a few wiped their eyes, because they believed. And sometimes belief changes more than facts ever could. One evening, Layla and Marcus took a walk through the old neighborhood. She wore purple rain boots, even though it hadn't rained in days. "It's just in case," she said. "Noah told me the best surprises happen when you're ready for them." They stopped at a quiet street corner, the one near the closed-down train station. There, beneath the broken street lamp, stood an old man playing harmonica. A cardboard sign rested at his feet. It read, "You're not lost. You're just not finished yet." Layla gasped. "Daddy, look!" Marcus blinked, then walked over. The man smiled through a grizzled beard. His fingers were calloused. His clothes were worn. "Where'd you get that phrase?" Marcus asked gently. The man shrugged. "Heard it from a little boy years ago. Said he traveled light, only carried truth. Used to play music with me till one day he just vanished." "Was his name Noah?" Layla asked. The man's eyes sparkled. "Well now, that was what he said, wasn't it?" Layla turned to Marcus, grinning wide. "He's still out there, Daddy." Marcus felt something bloom in his chest. "Yeah, I think he is." That night, Layla couldn't sleep. She stood by her bedroom window, staring at the moon. Marcus walked in and sat beside her. "You okay, baby?" "I was thinking," she said, hugging her stuffed giraffe. "What if Noah finds another little girl who's lost? And what if she's scared like I was?" Marcus brushed her hair back. Then, "I hope someone is singing nearby," she nodded solemnly. "We should teach the world to sing," he smiled. "You want to do that?" "Yes, like you taught me, but bigger, like everywhere. On the internet, on YouTube, on rooftops, in the middle of the night when people feel the most alone." Marcus hugged her close. "Then we'll do it." And they did. They recorded Layla's story, her drawings, her laughter. Marcus recorded songs from the notebook he used in the hospital. Raw, honest, trembling with love. They called the channel Noah's Echo. In 2 weeks, it reached 2 million views. In 4 months, they received over 10,000 messages. From ICU beds, broken homes, orphanages, prison cells, lonely dorm rooms. Each one ended the same way. "I thought I was lost, but now I think maybe I'm just not finished yet." On the 1-year anniversary of her waking, Layla stood on a small stage at the Voices at Dawn Center. She held a microphone with both hands. Her knees trembled, but her voice did not. She sang the song Noah had taught her, and as she finished, Marcus noticed a boy sitting in the back row, barefoot, dusty coat, a soft smile. Their eyes met, and then he was gone. No applause, no sound, just faith. Final note. Miracles aren't always thunder and lightning. Sometimes they're dirt under your nails and stories at bedtime. Sometimes they're the voice of a father rediscovering his song, or a little girl's hand reaching through the dark, or a black boy no one believes in laughing at the impossible until it isn't impossible anymore. Because the truth is, he didn't wake her up. He reminded the world.